RSA offers business-driven security solutions that provide organizations with a unified approach to managing digital risk and designed to effectively detect and respond to advanced attacks, manage user access control, and reduce business risk, fraud, and cybercrime. For a limited time, get mobile multi-factor authentication from RSA Secure ID Access for free to help secure your remote or dynamic workforce long-term. Leverage push notification, biometric, and one-time password authenticators to secure access to your cloud applications, on-premises systems, legacy systems, privileged accounts, and more at no cost for 6 months. For more information, visit securityweekly.com/RSA Security.
Welcome back to Security and Compliance Weekly. We're going to continue our discussion about maturing your security program, but first I'd like to invite you to join the Security Weekly mailing list for webcast and virtual training announcements and to receive your personal invitation to our Discord server. You can do all this by visiting securityweekly.com/subscribe and clicking the button to join the list. All right, let's get back to it. John, you were asking to kind of set up this segment, so I will let you tee off.
Outstanding. Thank you, Jeff. So the way I look at things in terms of a legal standpoint is, anything that can go wrong with enough time eventually will go wrong. And, there's no such thing as perfect security. And eventually, if you have enough hackers trying to get into your system, they'll eventually succeed. And as a lawyer or as a chief security officer, you're going to get a call at 3 a.m, or you're going to receive an email from somebody, I just got into your network and I stole all your customer data. And they may make a demand or whatever happens. At that moment, when that happens, your mind is going to flood with, oh my God, am I going to get fired? Am I going to go to jail? Is the company going to get put out of business? What do I do? And at that moment, you will focus very clearly on, have I done everything I could, and can I justify what I have done up to now to tell a skeptical public, shareholders, the FTC, conceivably even the Department of Justice? Can I explain to them that I did everything I could think of doing, I did everything that a responsible person would have done, and nevertheless we got hacked? And that's a good mental conversation to have before the disaster, because it is not a pleasant thing to think about at 4 a.m. And so I would sort of put it to Scott and Josh. When that 4 a.m. call comes and I wake them up and say, my client just got hacked, what questions are they going to ask me, and what is it that they're going to hope that we did beforehand that will help to at least justify the protocols that we had in place at the time, so that, nevertheless, despite the fact a hack occurred, we did everything we reasonably could be expected to try to prevent it.
My first question is, oh my God, do you know what time it is? Jesus.
So, No. I want to give the wrong answer. I want to give the totally wrong answer. Can we sweep this under the rug?
Oh God, I'm gonna hit you. I'm gonna hit you
more
hard.
on that next week.
So let me just add that. And this is a piece of wisdom that I got as a securities lawyer initially, but the same thing works with cyber. The way to turn a regulatory matter into a DOJ matter is to destroy evidence.
Yes. Have you been in the security industry long? Look,
long
I think
enough to have seen it all.
Yeah, no, I think just about every single person in the security industry that's been here for more than a year has seen a breach where somebody went with a bright idea, because they're the first one ever to think of this. Oh, we should just not tell anyone. And that's why we have 49 or 50 state laws about breach notification. And that's why we have things like GDPR and the New York State amended breach notification law. And you get the idea. They've basically...
Right, but Josh, we're covered under cyber insurance for a breach.
I'm going to hit you so friggin' hard.
I'm totally trying to trigger you right now.
We've done cyber insurance on this show. We have shown that most cyber insurance is a pile of crap. Most cyber insurance is written by people who don't understand the risks, therefore they can't price the risk, therefore they can't collect premium for the risk, and they don't understand how to judge the risk. So,
all right, so opportunity for a practical recommendation right now, Josh. In terms of buying cyber insurance, is that a must do first, should do at some point, or further down the list of, well, maybe when the time comes?
A lot of
Practical
times you
advice.
have to do your asset inventory and decide what you're insuring. If you're insuring all of the information and you can do a technological solution, a really good backup against ransomware that's multi-location, off-site, locked off, the whole 9 yards, you're probably better off doing that than depending on cyber insurance. There are technological solutions for significant numbers of common issues that we can use that can mitigate or destroy our need for using or invoking our cyber insurance. Because when the cyber insurance is invoked, there's a lot of other things that come along with it. Regulatory things, legal things, a lot of costs. Your cyber insurance is not there to compensate you. Your cyber insurance is there to pay for the forensics. Okay, that's it. And that's most of what cyber insurance is for. So
right.
Practical.
Let me step in here. Let me step in here real quick, Josh. I think this is a really good time to say this. I want to put out an open challenge to any cyber insurance company that can come on this show and tell us why cyber insurance actually matters. I want to put out an open challenge. Dead serious. I want someone to come on this show and show us why it practically matters.
I'll take it one further.
Is it the ultimate example of the false sense of security? To have cybersecurity policy?
That's pretty close. If it's not, it's pretty damn close. I'm going to call them out. Okay? I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Zurich Insurance. I don't care if you're Hartford. I don't care who you are. Come on the show. If you can tell us why cyber insurance matters and handle us, I would be impressed. Oh, good point, Dimitri. Subrogation. Putting off risk. Remember, you can never slide risk away. You can slide some liability, but you can't throw a risk away. Okay, it is amazing. You know what? We need to get off this topic because I can rant about cyber insurance for hours. Oh my god.
Well, let me just jump in and just say cyber insurance the government doesn't care if you have cyber insurance. It is not a protection against regulatory penalties or, God forbid, criminal liability or, the other thing that happens if you're a public company. If you get hacked and you're a public company, there's, as night follows day, there will be a shareholder lawsuit where the shareholders will say the company was harmed due to your incompetence in failing to prevent that breach. Now, maybe cyber insurance will cover the judgment. It'll probably cover or D&O coverage may cover the legal bills, but that's all. And it doesn't, is no protection against governmental sanction, nor is it protection at all against loss of customer goodwill and trust.
So I think in coalescing what you're saying is that I think, and I'm speaking for the three of you plus me, I think we're calling cyber insurance snake oil.
Oh,
I think you might have summed it up. So let's move on from that.
Bite me.
So John, yes, in my years as a QSA doing PCI assessments for many merchants and service providers, the ones that typically were taking the standard seriously and trying to actually follow it were the ones that had gotten that midnight 3 a.m. phone call. For whatever reason, I was involved with a QSA company back when I was first getting started, back in the late 2000s, and we were dealing with some of the large companies that were famously breached back in the day. I'm allowed to say I have their permission to say I was the QSA for the TJX companies, and they were hit in 2008-ish. They actually weren't PCI compliant, and they admitted it. They didn't claim to be at the time of their breach. And I spent nearly 6 years with them, getting them on the road to maturing their security organization, which they had in place initially, but they had deficiencies, obviously. And from a legal perspective, they are still under FTC sanctions, if you will. They agreed to settle a claim of, I think it was the 48 contiguous states attorneys general that got together and sued them civilly. And part of the settlement was that they were subject to FTC a security assessment for 20 years, in addition to PCI. But the experience that I had with many companies early on, and pretty much still to this day to some degree, was some combination of, well, we don't want that 3 o'clock call. We don't want our names showing up in the media as being breached. We don't want the adverse publicity. But their attitude largely was, tell us what's not best practice, but within our industry, what is everybody else doing? Very common question I got was, what is our competitors doing? Because we want to do no more, no less, because their view was, if I'm doing as much as everybody else is doing in terms of security and something bad happens, I won't be held liable or be in trouble, or probably most importantly, they won't be subject to the adverse publicity if they are at least doing what everybody else is doing. And then it was just more of a, whoa, it just was the luck of the draw. We just happened to be the losers at this time. I'm not saying that was a good approach, but that certainly was a very common attitude. Johnny, if you would please, I'm ready for the second slide. I want to share with you guys, not
Jeff,
that I'm
can
promoting.
I stop you? Jeff,
Sure.
I'm going to stop you for one quick second. By the way, Eddie Mize, Eddie the Eddie, messaged me and said that he loves the show, but the slide you put up before was really blurry. So can we make sure, Johnny, can we throw these slides in the wiki afterwards? Is that okay?
We'll definitely do that.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to make a point.
Jeff, before you leave the topic, can I just comment on what you just said about what do our competitors do?
Sure. I
would take very, very little comfort as a lawyer for a company in, when that 4 a.m. call came saying, well, all our competitors, we did the same thing our competitors did. I don't know. I don't trust government bureaucrats to be receptive to that argument,
right,
or b even appreciate the subtlety of it. If a breach happens, they're going to be laser focused on what you did and whether what you did is objectively justifiable. And simply saying that, well, other companies are also equally negligent is not necessarily a good argument, and it's not one that I would take to the bank at all.
Fair enough. Duly noted. So I wanted to show this slide not to promote PCI, but and not to focus on the 12 requirements on the right side, the 1 through 12, but on what they call the 6 goals of security, which are the bold column on the left. They have 6 goals. I want to throw this up here just sort of as a springboard to, if we're breaking down you're just getting started, which is what Josh had requested at the end of the first segment, and there's things that you have to do. I would throw these out just as talking points. These are the 6 elements that PCI promotes or presents, and it's based on other best practices. This is not uncommon to things like the NIST Cybersecurity Framework or Risk Management Framework. Build and create a secure network environment, protect the data that forget cardholder, just your sensitive data, maintain things, control the access, do the security stuff, monitoring and testing, and maintain an information security policies. Have a policy written down, a charter, have ownership, have roles and responsibilities, do a risk assessment, update and grow the thing, periodically on an ongoing basis. So Josh, Scott, John, agree or disagree with the major goals, but I think it's a pretty good high-level view of the types of things that you should do that are part of a security program if you're starting out where do you start? What are your thoughts? And try to put it in the context of pragmatic recommendations.
I want to laser in on number 5.
Scott, if you want to go first, go ahead.
No, you go. I'll go after.
Okay, so 2 things. Number 1, you've put up obviously the PCI data security standards for those of you who aren't looking and are listening. The basic, the first few standards, or the 12 rather, all of them. And it's about firewalls, vendor supplied defaults for system passwords, don't use them, protect your data, encrypt stuff. You've seen this a million times. And so I'm going to do 2 things. Number 1 is I'm actually going to steal 2 seconds. Jeff, you stole 2 seconds at the beginning of the show to do an anniversary or a birthday, 1 week birthday for your granddaughter. I'm going to do my something for my family. It's my wife's second day at her new job. So I'm very proud of her. She got a job. I don't think I can name it, but she's at a major financial institution, senior cybersecurity auditor. So I'm really, really proud of her.
Woohoo!
Woo! Hey, it's awesome.
She working right there in Wilmington?
Actually, no. A little north of here. But she's working from home for at least the next few months because obviously everybody's working from home right now.
Beautiful campus. Was a customer about 16 years ago for me.
What was that?
Where she's likely working, it's a beautiful campus. It was my customer about 14 years ago.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Fantastic. Well done, sir. Yeah, she's
we'll
a little bit north. They're the little bit north and west of Philly.
Yep.
Anyway.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. You're very well aware. Yeah, senior cybersecurity auditor there, so I'm really proud of her. Secondly, these are you could do a hell of a lot worse. And I'm going to say this right off the bat. You could do a hell of a lot worse than starting with these things that you've put on screen. You could do a hell of a lot worse to use these ideas from the PCI DSS as, hey, what should I do? Let me give some sort of guiding framework. This is not bad at all. This is a great sort of basics type of thing. Obviously, protect stored cardholder data. Just protect your important data, whatever that is. If it's healthcare data, substitute whatever is important to you for cardholder. You know what I'm saying. But this is a damn good place to start. I love it.
Hey, I want to step in. I want to step in here and step and ride on coattails, right? Johnny, can you take this down just for a hot second? One of the major things in security that people seem to forget about is the fact that there have been 2 driving factors that have changed the industry, right? The first is ransomware. No. Oh, no. Right? It's ransomware. Okay. Ransomware is number 1. PCI is number 2. Right? Now, going back to the slide, Johnny, I really want to laser in on number 5, right? Number 5 says use and regularly update antivirus software programs. My own humble opinion, and you're more than welcome to fight me on this. Yeah, I'm in a fighting mood today, if you couldn't tell from cyber insurance. Antivirus is dead. It's dead.
It's not dead.
It's dead. It's dead. You replace it with adequate training for your users, for your customers, for people that are involved with your systems, and the assimilation of other businesses that you buy to adhere to your standards.
I'm not going to disagree with you, Scott. I would say 2 things. One, requirement 5 in PCI is inclusive these days. This is just a title type of slide. It's inclusive of antivirus, anti-malware. But to your point, though, when it was written 16 years ago, the antivirus and anti-malware that was common back then was more what did we used to call it? The stuff that would collect information about you, so you could get, ads sent to you, or maybe it was a denial of service type of stuff. Ransomware certainly has transformed the antivirus and anti-malware type of world. So I'm not disagreeing with your assertion. In a PCI context where malware has been used more often than ransomware the last 6 or 7 years, is it's now the way that credit card information is habitually stolen, not from an attacker finding the database that holds the 3 to 5 years worth of transactions and the millions of cards, and they get in and steal it and they get out. It's
Right.
the harvesting over time from each cash register, one at a time, at stores across the city or the neighborhood or the country or the state or whatever. And that's very often done by what's called commonly as memory scraping malware, but malware that has a very specific purpose and very specific target. Final statement is PCI allows for other types of programs besides signature-based, detection programs to look for antivirus and malware. They entertain whitelisting, blacklisting solutions, and stuff like that. I'll shut up now. Go ahead.
Well, if you're watching the Discord is just lighting up from what I'm saying, and it's not so much that we need to kill antivirus, or we need an antivirus-free antivirus. Yo, dog, I heard you like antivirus, right? It's we need to move to a new model, right? And Dimitri and Cactus are over in Discord, and we're having a really good discussion about zero trust, right? So why don't we move away from antiquated antivirus, which the mean time to detect is God knows how many days at this point. At one point I saw it was 250, then I saw it was 300. Why don't we move to a zero trust application set for the systems that are defined in the ROC?
Because the problem with zero trust is that it is still not nearly as usable that we need to actually do business. Zero trust is an ideal, and in certain circumstances we can do it, but it doesn't work across all boundaries, across all business units, across all business processes. It simply doesn't work yet. We're moving there, and I agree with you that it would make antivirus dead at that point entirely, but we're not there yet.
Let me say this. I'm agreeing with both of you to a certain degree, and the danger of me putting up this slide, and I apologize for not trimming to just the 6 goals. Focusing on the goal, maintaining a vulnerability management program, and the idea is keeping what you have out there secure by constantly updating it and doing different things. Keeping that as the goal at the high level, there's something that continues to need to be done. I mean, we as security professionals tend to gravitate towards the technology solutions, which I'm afraid that's what we're getting into, which I want to steer away from. My final point that I want to throw out here and try to get your guys' thoughts on it in the forms of practical advice to our audience is, I'll say this about the PCI program. Looking at the 6 goals, these are good places to start. This is a good framework of things that you should include. PCI in particular looks for 2 different things primarily in assessing your security program, and very roughly, it's the paper and it's the technical solution. You have documented policy, standards, procedures. You have everything written down that you're doing, and then you have all the technical controls in place, whether it's technology solutions or technical procedures, automated procedures, manual procedures, whatever. What I've always liked about PCI, better than any other audit measure or regulatory standard, was if you're doing it as a QSA, you kind of can't hide from me. I'm asking you first, what are you doing? Show me the documentation of what your program looks like and everything you're doing, and then let's go see if you're really doing what you claim to be doing in your documentation. So my question to you is, in terms of how do you mature a security program, how do you prioritize doing the technical solutions versus having all the documentation in place that kind of stipulates and spells out all the goals and things that you're trying to accomplish? So prioritize the paper side of things, the software side of things, or the technical control side of things. Go.
Wow. They're all just as important because they're all super linked. The paper guides you into what to build and buy and install. The build and buy, the budget guides you in what you can afford. The resources tells you whether you can do open source, where you pay in effort, or your budget informs you whether you can pay in money. They're all linked, man. You can't put one above or beyond the other. Sorry.
Yeah, but you have to, on top of that, Josh, in adding to what you're saying, you have to add in the human element. If you are not getting teams to talk to each other and cross-pollinate ideas within the org, okay, you're doing exactly what we're trying to get rid of, right? Which is breaking down silos and building bridges, right? How can you reach out to the other teams and say, okay, well, if we work together to solve this problem and we come up with an effective solution that still allows for production to happen, right? Wouldn't that also be a better way of doing this? Or would it be an additive? And
interesting.
Silence.
No, here's the thing. It's Gewalt. This is a tough question. I can take a small company and tell them what to do because I've seen so many times. Any of us on the show could, okay? Although John would probably call me or you, Scott, or Jeff. But nothing.
And there's nothing
John.
wrong with that.
Not your thing. But the kicker is that every company is different. I mean, look, Scott, we're building that product, and I'm not going to pitch a product, but I mean, we're building a product. Yep. We're actually going to give it away to nonprofits just to get the data on what we need to do and what we need to build. And it's going to be about
the process correct?
Yeah, automating some security, automating some compliance stuff, and that's like grand. But it's been interesting just going through this kind of discussion of what's important, what's first, what's automatable, what's not, what needs a human, which, by the way, means that we need a human, a subjective discussion or a subjective idea of what's important. And that's why I say that the policy, the paperwork, I think is that what you put it, Jeff? The paperwork?
Mm-hmm. The paper side, the soft side.
The paper side. The soft, well, okay, the paper side. The paper side is as important as the technology because it gives us an objectivity. It gives us an abstraction layer, if you will. It's not my goals.
If we agree that it's just as important, let me throw out two things. One, many of my companies, my customers over the years, push comes to shove, they're like, in the context of like we would go in and do a vulnerability assessment and give them a written report, so a form of paper. They're like, well, we have a limited budget. I can't go to my boss or our board or whatever, our CEO, and say, this is what we spent our money on. It's a report that tells us what our problems are. And it's recommending us to put a bunch of paper in place. They were very much more incentivized, rightly or wrongly, to invest their scant security dollars into product. And so the whole industry gravitated towards technology. Second point is, because PCI requires all that paper and because it's all supposed to be there, many of my customers, not all, but many customers, they essentially, only time they pulled the documentation out was the annual assessment. They would dust it off and review it a week before I'd show up on site. Very, very common practice. So what point is it to stress the importance of it and make them write it down? If they're not going to use it anyway, why bother? Why not just go right to the end, which is what everybody wants to do anyway, and just buy the technology so that they can not get scolded by their management for not having invested wisely their scarce investment dollars. Thoughts?
It depends, though, right? Is the appliance that you've bought actually doing what you need it to do, or are you more secure with that appliance sitting on the shelf?
How do you know what it's doing, A, and how do you know what it is that you want it to do, other than the vendor, and not to disparage the sales guy, but they did a really good job convincing you that you really need that in order to be secure.
There's a really good book out there called Visible Ops Security Second Edition, right? And in the book, the author lays out the 4-phased approach for when information security sufficiently integrates into IT ops, right? And they're making the case that both groups can better manage the risk and meet operational commitments. 4-phased approach, right? First one is stabilize the patient. Second one is find the business risk and fix fragile artifacts. Third is to implement development and release controls, right? And then the fourth is enable continual improvement, right? So how do you get that into a life cycle that you're then baking into your production of things, right? Production of widgets, production of whatever a business does.
I was just catching up on some of the comments in the Discord server, and I do want to give out a shout out to Wendy Nather. Somebody mentioned that she is quoted as saying, "We are automating." Oh, it was you, Josh. We're automating.
I just quoted her about the cyber poverty line. That's her point.
Yeah. Yep.
But the stuff before that is for me.
Okay. Well, okay. So the cyber poverty line, the fact that all of this stuff that we're talking about, basically not every company can afford it, especially to invest in, the gazillion different technology point solutions that everybody absolutely needs in order to be secure. In fact, what a great idea. We should have Wendy on the show to talk about the cyber poverty line. Mental note.
And we should actually extend this conversation with her, because this is a cyber poverty line discussion. Where does a small company, a startup company, a company without the budget to do massive investment in every point product known to man, where do they start? And I think she'd get a real kick out of that.
All right. So the takeaway from today's show is stay tuned. We're going to get Wendy Nather on the show at some point, and she'll answer the question for us. Yeah. Sound good? Hey, I'm afraid we need to wrap it up for today. I hope you guys have enjoyed the discussion. I certainly have, and if nothing else, pointing out that this is a hard nut to crack. This is a hard conversation to have, and like so many things, there is no one set. Follow these 7 rules, 10 rules, 15 rules, steps, make it go away. And I warn you, if anybody's selling you something based on that, just keep walking. Gentlemen, thank you so much for the discussion today, for your input. Thank you for the discussion on the Discord server. That's going to wrap for today. We'll see you next week, where we're going to talk about this whole Uber thing. And John's going to lead the discussion next week. So come on back a week from now.